So we had the conversation about Anthony Richardson. Chicago now is a talented team, but I don't think that coaching staff is going to be there next year.
Nope.
Their organization is continuing to crumble. I wanted to play this clip, and we talked about how they fired their offensive coordinator, which you're going to hear in the clip. It's their second offensive coordinator that they have fired in the calendar year or in the last 24 months. Or sorry, not 24 months. 12 months. So it's an interesting concept, but Dan Orlovsky absolutely obliterated the Bears' dysfunction to a point where his analogies kind of made me laugh and smile, but it was refreshing to hear his take on what he thinks the Bears need to do for Caleb Williams. So let's play that.
Disaster.
Utter disaster. And I want to make sure I asked Shefty something clearly. Is it accurate to say that there were conversations that they were going to sit Caleb down?
There were conversations. I don't know how close they got, but yes, there were conversations about whether one of the solutions was to bench the quarterback. But to bench him, to give him a break, to try to save him from himself. I'm just telling you, Dan.
This is why it's an utter disaster. How about Chicago, you coach him? Instead of throwing him to the side and sweeping the problem under the rug.
They may ruin him before they coach him up.
Here's Chicago thinks they're dating Caleb Williams. You're married to him, okay? So I want to make sure I understand this. So you pass on the quarterbacks from 2 years ago, the Bryce Young and CJ Stroud situation, to get picks to rebuild this roster. And you passed on those guys because you really wanted Caleb Williams. You were willing to wait for the #1 pick for Caleb Williams. And then you rebuild this roster with a ton of talent. You draft Caleb Williams. You decide to start Caleb Williams. And the first time that the adversity hits, it's like, well, we'll push you over here and you don't matter anymore because the other stuff is more important. You're married to him, guys. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Who's tough in the building? You coach them through this stuff. You go, we're going to get through this together. It's just like in marriage. When your kids are losing their minds or life is tough, you don't got enough. It's not like you bail on your wife. No, we're going to get through this together. What happened to coaching these kids? I understand he's not playing well. Coach him, develop him, figure out how to get him to play better instead of throwing him to the side.
And they have fired 2 offensive coordinators in this calendar year. They don't know how to coach people. They don't know how to develop people. They always get it wrong.
They always get it wrong is what he was saying at the end. But I love the fact of Dan saying it is a marriage between these two. You got rid of Justin Fields and opened up the door to say, Caleb, you're our guy.
And they were a win away from a playoff game last year, by the way, with Justin Fields.
And Justin Fields missed time last year, by the way, which people forget. And Rick, I saw the comment in here saying the Bears' offensive line is pretty weak. This is the thing that kind of drives me crazy at times, is that if you know you have a weakness on your team, and this is why the great coaches do well, plan around it. Like going into the season, did anyone think that the Commanders' offensive line was going to be a strength for the team?
No.
But they started creating something to get Jaden comfortable from the start. Then the run game opened because Jaden Daniels' athletic ability, and you have 2 running backs that can run the football. Now all of a sudden they piece together things and you build confidence as a unit. And when you build confidence, guys are going to play better. So for the Bears, if you go back and watch, I was watching some film on it. The concepts of it didn't always make sense, right? The concepts of it, guys run down the field and it's either the quick passes have to come out or you have to change the routes to give Caleb a chance. Because then once you get drilled a lot, it's the same thing like for baseball, right? You get a ball that gets thrown at your head a couple times or you get drilled or you're having success. You might be a little bit more timid to want to get out of the way instead of looking at a pitch over the heart of the plate because you're afraid about getting smacked. I felt that as a baseball player at times. For football, imagine you're the quarterback. You're like, man, I'm trying to make a read, but I've just been knocked on my ass over and over and over again for the first 10 weeks of the season. I thought Dan was right, Zach. I think that Dan, I love the word coaching, but to be fair, I don't know if that's going to be the fix for him this year. And ironically for the Bears, a team that looked like they could be a playoff squad, 2 weeks since that Hail Mary, 3 weeks. A lot of things have changed for Chicago.
The Bears effed up the second they decided. I still believe the second they decided not
to draft Caleb Williams.
Well, the second they decided to keep their head coach, and then the second they decided not to get Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator, who is sitting there. Cliff Kingsbury, who was literally his coach in college when he was doing all this stuff that made people say he is a generational talent who needs to be the number 1 overall pick. He's a guy you tank for. He's going to change the trajectory of your franchise. You have the opportunity to get his play caller who he is comfortable with. You have that opportunity. You say, no, we'll let him go, deal with Jaden Daniels in Washington, and look at the difference between the two. We're sitting here once again talking about how the Bears had to move on from their offensive coordinator because, as Matt Miller talked about on Monday with us as well, the scheme is just, it's bad. It's bad. As he said, it's offensive at times.
It's bad, but also then the combination of Caleb's a rookie and Caleb is not playing very well. So the combination of it's when Caleb does have time, he hasn't made the throws. And then when most times when things are not functioning well, he's running for his life. It's a combination, but where it starts for any player, your coaching has to help set up to put your player in a good position. I don't care what it is. You look at any system out there, unless you are so damn good that you can just overcome all that. And I'll say with one case, we talk about with Lamar Jackson with the Ravens, like Greg Roman was the right coordinator for Lamar when it happened. And then we said, you know what? He needed to kind of evolve. But when we looked at things, people were going, well, Lamar, his passing game, the concepts. Well, some things got a little bit outdated when they looked at it. Lamar's ability was able to overcome certain aspects. But Greg Roman's a good coach, but it outgrew it. So the Ravens brought in Todd Monken, and now you're seeing the evolution of Lamar Jackson with the skill position players. Go look at Jared Goff's first year in L.A. or with the Rams, with St. Louis. Was L.A. St. Louis? That was a shell of himself. Sean McVay comes in. He goes, damn, they went to be a Super Bowl contending team. So the coaching does matter. Jaden Daniels, I think any quarterback there, I don't know if he goes to Chicago and is in the better spot. Jaden's mobility and getting rid of the ball, his decision.
I think Jaden Daniels would have done better.
I agree with that because of his style and his experience
and he doesn't take sacks. Caleb Williams, his time in that pocket is 2.4 seconds. He's looking down the field, giving it one read, and then running out of the pocket. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand that there's the offensive line, and we talk about that, but he's immediately running. We actually saw this from Lamar Jackson his first year or two, where he was more like, I'm not going to read this. I'm just going to give it a read or two and then bolt. I'm going to run.
Now he's trying to extend the play more and more and trying to make a play down the field.
The problem is that Caleb Williams isn't nearly as athletic, in my opinion, as a Lamar Jackson, and he can't get away with that.
Well, the circus.
Jaden Daniels could get away with that. He's made some of those mistakes along the way, and he's developing super fast on the Commanders, but I think that Jaden Daniels would have been better on the Bears than Caleb Williams right now. And this isn't because I've always been kind of dogging the Caleb Williams overhyped machine, but like, if you just look at the stats, you can clearly see that like he's leaving the pocket immediately just to try to make a play that isn't there.
Well, and the decisiveness, I will say too. You're talking about with Caleb. What was one thing, Zach, that we always talked about? It was those type of circus plays at USC where you can run backwards, escape. There's only one quarterback that can like truly do that. It really is Lamar. And what I mean by like fully running backwards, like you can't run backwards and flip around and hope that you're going to have something work out. So the decision making of throwing balls away when there's nothing there, getting rid of it quick. That's one thing with Jaden Daniels or even CJ Stroud, the number 2 overall picks that have really blossomed. Stroud gets the ball out quick. So does Jaden Daniels. Super quick. And I think the decision-making is what's hurt Caleb. But make no mistake, I think it was the scheme mainly for the issue.
He's also been sacked 39 times this season.
Right, and part of that is he's got to get rid of it at times. And the other part is he doesn't even have the time to make the read. It's a combination, but where it starts from the beginning, it's the scheme. It starts with your coach helping you try to address that. And this Bears staff, who was already under hot water, they were trying to appoint him to be the next greatest thing is your phrase, Brad.
Everybody wanted.
But to your point. And I think now all that's catching up because this team, Bears-wise, talent-wise, with what they have, I know they have deficiencies on the offensive line. There's no reason that this team should be under 500 at this point of the season with who they have.
Yeah, I think it comes back to Waldron being hired, and this clip is from Super Bowl.
Oh, is this Jackson Smith?
Yeah, and just the most awkward conversation you'll ever have from someone talking about their former coach. So this was before the season, right after the Bears had hired Waldron, who was Jackson Smith and Jigba's coach in Seattle.
We're super interested about the offensive coordinator coming in, Shane Waldron. What can you tell them about who they just hired to try to get this offense where it needs to go?
This is live?
Yeah, we're not live. We're not live.
I'm playing. Good luck to y'all. I mean, he's a great person, great offensive coordinator. I was very lucky to have him my first year. Learned a lot from him. I think him and Justin will mesh well, and adding more guys around him, I think it would be great. So we'll see.
That doesn't sound like a ringing endorsement, and I think the silence was a lot more meaningful than the words he said. That and if you look at the statistics, just the routes that guys are running and stuff, I see it on. It's a bad scheme. It's a really bad scheme. I don't think, and I also want to say this. This is not a quick fix. Changing the offensive coordinator, Caleb Wood. This is not like, oh, the Bears have a better scheme now. They're going to go. This is pretty much done for the year. But they need to now, what I said they shouldn't do last year, they're going to need to get a new coach. They're going to have to completely overhaul the scheme. And now you're going into year 2 of Caleb Williams, pretty much back at square one.
Yeah. And by the way, barring some miracle run to the playoffs, they're going to have a new coaching staff. So it's all context here, but it is funny. And it's always the words when you hear players talk about their first reaction will tell you the story. And I've told you about some guys I've talked with in baseball. When I ask about certain guys, tell me about them. And I can find out a lot. And I can't spoil that. You guys know I don't kiss and tell. But you can learn a lot from the first reaction from the guy. You can hear if someone goes, I love everything about him. I've learned so much. And then whatever, blah, 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 blah. Or the pauses. He's a really good guy. I learned a lot.
Is this live?
let me think how to word this so it doesn't come out super bad.
Yeah.
When they start with he's a great guy, that's probably not. He's a great guy. He's a great guy.
He's a good kid.
Yeah.
He's a good kid. But that's just the problems that are happening with the Chicago Bears. And again, for the organizations that have their franchise quarterback, be thankful. Right? Yeah. Be thankful for what you have there, because there are organizations that haven't gotten it right for decades or in the history of. For Chicago Bears specifically, they've been trying to find one for decades.
For their entire franchise.
Well, Jay Cutler was the hope, but that's the closest thing that they've come to that.
Never had a good quarterback in their entire franchise history. Never.
That's just the way the cookie crumbles. And hey, if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We do this every Monday and Thursday.